It's been a long while for me to read and upload the my daily English reading. Today is March 9th, 2022, and today is the our Korean national election day for a new president, for new presidency. So number one is Lee Jae-myung, number two candidate is Yoon Suk-yeol. They are just neck and neck in the voting counts. So we have to wait and see until 2 a.m. That's 4 hours from now. It's really a neck and neck competition. So the winner will just win by the margin of 300,000 votes according to the forecast. So I'm a little bit excited about the result, but I am always ready to accept a new president, even though I just voted for number one. But the number two can be a good candidate, a good president, so I don't care. Whoever wins, I hope they lead our nation very well into the prosperity, safety, security, and money, and everything that we wish for. Here's an interesting article for my daily English reading about the coronavirus pandemic and where it got started. Is it the Wuhan, China, or is it just natural occurrences that can be found everywhere around the world? Let's take a look into what NPR is saying. Here we go. Striking new evidence points to Wuhan seafood market as the pandemic's origin point. Well, striking new evidence. That's good expression. By the way, I'm just reading an English article daily as a part of my endeavor to improve my pronunciation and to memorize good English words, expressions, and sentences, and to learn about something. Okay, learn something daily. March 3rd, 2022. So that's 6 days ago. Mikhail Duklev. That's an interesting name. Mikhail Duklev. Sounds like a French name to me. There's a 3-minute listen post upload here, but I'm going to skip it because I'm just going to read the material. Wuhan. I'm learning Chinese now, so let me read that Chinese name. Wuhan, Huanan, Haishen, Bifa, Shuchang. Okay, Bifa, Shuchang. Shuchang means a market. Okay, security guards stand in front of the Huanan seafood wholesale market in Wuhan, China, on January 11th, 2020, after the market had been closed following an outbreak of COVID-19 there. Two new studies document samples of SARS-CoV-2 from stalls where live animals were sold. Noel Salis, AFP, via Getty Images. Was it a new raccoon dogs? Was it a few raccoon dogs inside a metal cage and stacked on top of a chicken coop? Or perhaps a lone red fox curled up in the corner of its cage? Could one of these wild animals have triggered the entire COVID-19 pandemic late in 2019? Over the weekend, an international team of scientists published two extensive papers online offering the strongest evidence to date that the COVID-19 pandemic originated in animals at a market in Wuhan, China. Specifically, they conclude that the coronavirus most likely jumped from a caged wild animal into people at the Huanan seafood wholesale market, where a huge COVID-19 outbreak began in December 2019. Scientists who weren't involved in the research papers are calling the new data very convincing and a blow to the lab leak theory that the virus somehow escaped from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which does research on coronaviruses. In reaction to the papers, they say the newly published data is tipping the scales toward wildlife sold at the market. The studies don't exclude other hypotheses entirely, says virologist Jeremy Camille, who is at Louisiana State University Health Shreveport and was not involved in this research. What is Shreveport? Sounds like a place name, but that's strange because we have a health in front of it. So Louisiana State University Health Shreveport and was not involved in this research, but they absolutely are pushing it toward an animal origin. They are pushing it toward an animal origin. That's a good expression. They are pushing it toward animal origin. Neither of the papers provides the smoking gun, that is, an animal infected with a SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus at a market. But they come close. Provides the smoking gun. Provides the smoking gun. But they come close. They provide photographic evidence of wild animals which can be infected with and shed SARS-CoV-2 sitting in the market in late 2019. What? But they come close. They provide photographic evidence of wild animals which can be infected with and shed SARS-CoV-2 sitting in the market in late 2019, such as raccoon dogs and a red fox. What's more, the caged animals are shown in or near a stall where scientists found SARS-CoV-2 virus on a number of surfaces, including on cages, carts, and machines that process animals after they are slaughtered at the market. That's terrible. The papers are preliminary. The papers are preliminary. The papers are preliminary. They still need to be reviewed by outside scientists. But if their analyses turn out to be accurate, the new data paints an incredibly detailed picture of the early days of the pandemic. Photographic and genetic data pinpoint a specific stall at the market where the coronavirus likely was transmitted from an animal into people. And a new genetic analysis estimates the time within weeks when not just one but two spillovers occurred. Spillovers. Yeah, spillover conduit. In a dam, spillovers occurred. Spillovers. It predicts the coronavirus jumped into people once in late November or early December, and then again few weeks later. So now, for the first time, the timing of the earliest known coronavirus infections coincides almost exactly with the timing of the outbreak at the seafood market, which began in early December and likely involved hundreds of people working or shopping at the market. That outbreak also spilled over into the surrounding community, as one of the new studies shows. Staff members of the Wuhan Hygiene Emergency Response Team investigate the shuttered Huanan seafood wholesale market on January 11, 2022, after it was linked to cases of COVID-19. At the same time, the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention found 2 variants of the coronavirus inside the market, and an independent study led by virologists at the University of California, San Diego, suggests these 2 variants didn't involve in people, because throughout the entire pandemic, scientists have never detected a variant linking the 2 together. Altogether, the new studies suggest that most likely the 2 variants evolved inside animals. Evolutionary biologist Michael Worobey helped lead 2 of the studies and has been at the forefront of the search for the origins of the pandemic. He has spent his career tracking down the origins of pandemics, including the origin of HIV and the 1918 flu. Back in May, Worobey signed a letter calling for an investigation into the lab leak theory. But then, through his own investigation, he quickly found data supporting an animal origin. This week, NPR spoke to Worobey, who's at the University of Arizona, to understand what the data in these new studies tells us about the origin of SARS-CoV-2, how he believes the data may shift the debate about the lab leak theory, and the significance of photos taken 5 years before the pandemic. Here are key points from the conversation, which has been edited for clarity and length. There's another good expression, which has been edited for clarity and length. Live animals that are susceptible to COVID-19 were in the market in December 2019. It's clear-cut these wild live animals, including raccoon dogs and red foxes, were in the market. Clear-cut. It's a clear-cut. It's clear-cut. It's clear-cut. We have photographic evidence from December 2019. A concerned customer evidently took these photos and videos of the market on December 3rd and posted them on Weibo because it was illegal to sell certain live animals. The photos were promptly scrubbed. Why? Promptly scrubbed. Scrubbed, but a CNN reporter had communicated directly with the person who took the photos. I was able to get in touch with this reporter, and they passed on those photos from the source. So we don't completely verify the photos. An anonymous user on Chinese social media platform Weibo posted pictures of live animals for sale in southwest corner of the Huanan seafood wholesale market in Wuhan in 2019. Researchers investigating the origins of the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus are including these images in a forthcoming academic paper that pinpoints the southwest corner of the Wuhan seafood wholesale market as the most probable origin point of the pandemic. Live susceptible animals were held in a stall where SARS-CoV-2 was later detected on a machine that processed animals in the market. We analyzed a leaked report from the Chinese CDC detailing the results of this environmental sampling. Virtually all of the findings in the report matched what was in the World Health Organization's report, but there was some extra information in the leaked report. For example, there was information not just on which stalls had virus in them or had samples positive for SARS-CoV-2, but also how many samples in a given stall yielded positive results. We found out that one stall actually had 5 positive samples. 5 surfaces in that stall had a virus on them. And even better, in that particular stall, the samples were very animal Y. What is animal Y? Animally, I think. What? In the particular stall, samples were very animal Y. For example, scientists found virus on a feather hair remover, a cart of the sort that we see in photographs that are used for transporting cages, and best of all, a metal cage in a back room. So now we know that when the national public health authorities shut down the market and then sampled the surfaces there, one of the surfaces positive for SARS-CoV-2 was a metal cage in a back room. What's even weirder, it turns out that one of the co-authors of the study, Eddie Holmes, had been taken to the Wuhan market several days before the pandemic and shown raccoon dogs in one of the stores. He was told this is the kind of place that has the ingredients for cross-species transmission of dangerous pathogens. Cross-species transmission. Cross-species transmission of dangerous pathogens. So he collects photos of the raccoon dogs. In one photo, the raccoon dogs are in a cage stacked on top of a cage with some birds in it. And at the end of our detective, some hidden plainclothes person investigating something. Sleuth. Are you a sleuth in Ukraine? At the end of our sleuth work, we check the GPS coordinates on his camera, and we find that he took the photo at the same stall where 5 samples tested positive for SARS-CoV-2. So we connected all sorts of bizarre kinds of data. Together, the data are telling a strong story. Sleuth work. Our sleuth work. Where samples positive for the coronavirus were found in Wuhan seafood wholesale market in January 2020. Starting January 1st, 2020, the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention took samples from the surfaces of stalls in Wuhan's Wuhan seafood wholesale market after animals had been removed. Samples that tested positive for the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus were largely clustered in the southwest corner, where live animals were sold and where scientists took photos in 2014, shown below, because of concern about potential disease transmission there. Positive SARS-CoV-2 samples found in stores. Black dot indicates self-reported case of COVID-19 in vendors. Black square, hollow square indicates stalls selling live mammals. Okay, dotted line square with a hollow inside, stores selling meat. West side, okay, east side. Photos of raccoon dogs and birds taken in 2014. Yep. Yes. What's that red color? Okay, positive SARS. Okay. Color says the cases. Okay, number of cases for coronavirus detected. Yeah. Yeah. They are very much clustered together, centering around this red square. Photos of the raccoon dogs and birds taken in 2014. Source: Wallaby and Levy et al. Et al. Means others and others, okay? Et al. But they are not shown here. Credit adapted by Connie Henjang Jin, NPR. I'm not sure why I don't have the clear-cut photo here. They are just shattered, cracked. These two photos taken in 2014 by scientist Eddie Holmes show raccoon dogs and unknown birds caged in the Wuhan seafood wholesale market. GPS coordinates of these images confirm that the animals were housed in the southwest corner of the market, where researchers found evidence of the coronavirus in January 2020. Eddie Holmes: earliest known cases of COVID-19, even those not directly related to individuals who had been in the market, radiate out from the market. With a virus such as SARS-CoV-2 that causes no symptoms or mild symptoms in most people, you don't have any chance of linking all the early cases to the site where the outbreak started, because the virus is going to quickly spread to people outside wherever it started. And yet, from the clinical observations in Wuhan, around half of the earliest known COVID cases were people directly linked to the seafood market. And the other cases, which aren't linked through epidemiological data, have an even closer geographical association to the market. That's what we show in our paper. It's observed how strong the geographical association is to the market. NPR observed how, in the sense that the seafood market is so clearly bullseye center of this outbreak? Yes, and I don't understand how anyone could not be moved, at least somewhat, by that data and then take this idea of an animal origin seriously, especially given the other things we found in these studies. The Wuhan seafood wholesale market on July 16, 2021. Getty Images. Mapping the first reported cases of COVID-19 in Wuhan. These maps show the estimated concentration of the earliest 156 cases of COVID-19 in Wuhan, China. In December 2019, the highest concentration of those cases centered on the Wuhan seafood wholesale market. Even for the subset of 123 individuals with no direct contact with the market, the same pattern emerged, strongly suggesting community transmission of the coronavirus began at or near the market. Concentration of all COVID-19 cases in December 2019. Wuhan market, fuck that. it's clearly shown that it is centered around Wuhan market. That's clear-cut evidence. Concentration of COVID-19 cases not directly linked to Wuhan market in December 2019. Yeah, it is also centered around Wuhan market, 6 miles radius. Source, Waterby and Levy et al. Credit, adapted by Tian Liu and Connie Hanzhang Jin. Okay? I'm learning Chinese, so I know that. Hanzhang, yeah, long. The virus jumped into people right before the outbreak in the market. For example, our new genetic analysis tells us that this virus was not around for very long when the cases occurred at the market. For example, the earliest known patient at the market had an onset of symptoms on December 10th, 2019. And we can estimate that at that point in time, there were only about 10 people infected with the virus in the world and probably fewer than 70. So if the pandemic didn't start at the market, one of the first 5 or 10 people infected in the world was at the market. And how do you explain that? You have to remember, Wuhan is a city of 11 million people, and the Wuhan market is only one of 4 places in Wuhan that sold live animals susceptible to SARS-CoV-2, such as raccoon dogs. It's highly unlikely that the first COVID-19 outbreak would occur at the market if there weren't a source of virus there. Step back and think, where is the first cluster of a new respiratory infection going to appear in this city? It could appear at a market, but it could also appear at a school, a university, or a meat packing plant, NPR, or a biotech conference? Yes, in Washington state, SARS-CoV-2 first appeared in a nursing home. In Germany, it was at an auto parts supplier. There are thousands, perhaps 10,000 other places at least as likely or even more likely to be the place where a new pathogen shows up. And yet, in Wuhan, the first cluster of cases happens to be one of the 4 places that sells live animals out of 10,000 other places. If you are not surprised by that, then I don't think you are understanding the unlikelihood that presents. NPR, so what is the likelihood of that coincidence happening? That the first cluster of cases occurs at a market that sells animals known to be susceptible to SARS-CoV-2, but the virus didn't actually come from the market. I would put the odds at 1 in 10,000, but it's interesting. We do have one analysis where we show essentially that the chance of having this pattern of cases clustered around the market is 1 in 10 million. If the market isn't a source of the virus, we consider that strong evidence in science. The analyses that we've done are telling a very strong story. The evidence is all amongst the best we have for any emerging virus. NPR, really? It's important to note we haven't found a related virus from the intermediate host, but we have a bunch of other evidence. Okay? A bunch of other evidence. And the data zeroing in on the Wuhan market to me is as compelling as the data that indicated to Jon Snow that the water pump was poisoning people who used it John Snow was a doctor in London who helped launch the field of outbreak investigations by figuring out the source of cholera outbreak in the city in the mid-19th century. Making these findings brought tears. Sometimes you have these rare moments where you are maybe the only person on earth who has access to this kind of crucial information. As I just started to figure out that there were more cases around the market than you can expect randomly. I felt that way, and no exaggeration. That moment, those kinds of moments bring a tear to your eye. That's another good expression. That moment brings a tear to your eye. Okay, you have two eyes, but actually we use one eye. And also teardrops, they're countable. Tear uncountable. It depends. Here we use a tear, okay? Bring a tear. So that moment brings a tear to your eye. So there's two grammatic difficulties right there for foreigners like me. So let's just memorize. Let's just wrote this expression and make it yours. That moment brings a tear to your eye. Those moments, those kinds of moments bring a tear to your eye. That moment brings a tear to your eye. A bunch of clear evidence, a bunch of other evidence at home, or our sleuth work, raccoon dogs, a strong evidence, pandemic origin, a lab leak theory. It's clear cut, spill over. Okay, striking new evidence, pushing it toward animal origin, provides the smoking gun. The papers are preliminary. Spillovers, which has been edited for clarity and length, strength or length. It's a clear cut, promptly scrubbed, Weibo. Cross-species transmission of dangerous pathogens. Cross-species transmission of dangerous pathogens. Cross-species transmission of dangerous pathogens. Our sleuth work at all. A bunch of other evidence. Strong new evidence. It's a clear cut. Our sleuth work at all. That moment brings a tear to our joy. Our sleuth work, clear-cut evidence, convincing, strong new evidence, which has been edited for, promptly scrubbed. Yeah, the papers are preliminary. It has been edited for clarity and length. Provides the smoking gun. It provides the smoking gun. Pushing it toward animal origin. Cross-species transmission of dangerous pathogens. Our sleuth work at all. A bunch of other evidence. that moment brings a tear to your eye. Promptly scribed is a clear-cut spillovers. The papers are preliminary, provides the smoking gut, pushing it towards the animal origin. Well, that's it for my daily English reading, and thanks for listening. From now on, I'm going to upload the Chinese daily reading because I'm learning Chinese. Okay, thanks for listening. Take care and good night.